mental health program as well as the policy, mental health policy and the health policy of tech applications to areas where there is a need, especially because of the inadequacy of human resource and the other reasons. Specifically in mental health, there will be some galvanizing from our core group in the next few months or 1 or 2 years for really those applications that can take mental health care to primary care level and the secondary care level, as well as perhaps improve the standardization that you have all been talking about from different perspectives since the morning. We'd all appreciate that if there is one area of healthcare practice, unfortunately, that has not had very good standardization, it's psychiatry and mental health. I mean, by the very nature of work that mental health services deal with, there are inherent difficulties in standardizing observations to inferences to actions to whatever else. But the scene is fortunately not as bad as it must have been 40 or 50 years ago, not even as bad as it was 20 years ago. There is some amount of standardization that's happened in mental health care practice, as well as its application to public health practice, taking mental health practice to public health practice. And now it only is perhaps our core job to take that to tech application and make it more standardized and broad-based. I must say, since the morning I've been thinking, and I must talk to our BIS colleagues sometime later, but there is this differentiation of standardization to quality assurance that we were talking about in the morning. Standardization as minimal or optimal and quality assurance as the next level. I have fortunately in the field of mental health some experience with that because we also, as the state authority, regulate the private nursing homes in mental health, and so there is the issue of standardization that we deal with. And our hospital has been one of the few government hospitals in the country, and the only one in the first mental health institution to have the NAPH accreditation. So I also wanted to flag somewhere, Rajanji, I don't know if you want to talk about in the report the issue of standardization vis-a-vis accreditation or higher quality assurance. But that was one thought. The other thing that has remained with me since the morning is what got touched upon, and you and I were talking about it over the chai. In routine clinical practice with hard copy records of mental health, there have been issues in last 10 years, especially with the RTI Act and otherwise, about access to psychiatry records. The legal system of this country has, from the Bombay High Court judgment 20 odd years ago to the RTI Act, upheld the basic idea of complete access to medical records for every consumer. My point has been with the CIC repeatedly for 10 years and in the Delhi High Court, which fortunately the Delhi High Court has still now held with me, is that the principle of access to medical records for the person or even for transferring across technology platforms has to be looked at very differently and carefully as far as psychiatric case records are concerned. Because if you all appreciate for a brief minute, anywhere in the globe and certainly in some parts of the world, unfortunately, the social reality and even the legal provisions are so adversely placed for anybody who has a label of having had a mental health problem. Even one consultation with a psychiatrist, especially with a state mental health institution, or more, a label of a diagnosis and the fact of having been treated can play havoc with the person's rights, especially in terms of the women's rights. So there is this huge issue of how are we going to ensure, and I don't know much about this, I can only flag the issue, but technological and legal safeguards for this information that will be generated and stored and transmitted widely for good benefit be somewhat controlled and not easily accessible. Because we do know of a lot of cases where the issues of marriage, property and a whole lot of other rights get so royally adversely affected by merely the fact of mental illness or one consultation. So, diagnostic labels can play havoc. So that was one major concern, the issue of privacy, and I think what a colleague was talking about with consent. But I wonder even the consent issue in terms of mental health consultations, whether that will hold. I will not get into details of this, but what we have argued in the Delhi High Court repeatedly, and it's been upheld till now, is like I said, the mental health records, secondary case records, or any information has to be dealt with at a very different level as compared to medical records.
I would support that. I would support
So,
that.
Nimesh, I'll come back to you
Sure.
because Anand
Please.
is going to join us in 5 minutes and I have Vipin with me and
Sure.
all we have talked is great, but if this doesn't get into medical education and practice, it's